Hello! In this tasting I'm taking a look at a wine from the Rhone Valley, specifically a Cotes du Rhone. The wine in question is from Domaine Les Grands Bois, and this is their Les Trois Soeurs Cuvee Cotes du Rhone Rouge, and as you can see this is from a half bottle. The vintage is 2023. So the estate here is located a few kilometres to the north of the town of Orange in Provence, and it's actually in a place called Sainte-Cecile-les-Vignes, and it's here that Mireille and Marc Besnardeau, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, run Domaine Les Grands Bois, and what is now a 47-hectare estate has been in the family since 1920, when Albert Farjon, Mireille's grandfather, was able to move from being a farm labourer to owning his own wine estate. He was followed into the business by his two sons, Albert and Robert, and subsequently they've been followed by his granddaughter Mireille and her husband Marc. Mireille and Marc have been in full control of the business since 1994. The family are very proud of being independent growers, and thus the cuvee name Les Trois Soeurs commemorates Mireille and Marc's three daughters, who presumably will be the fourth generation of the family to run Domaine Les Grands Bois. Marc had previously been a sommelier at a top Parisian restaurant, and thus it appeared obvious to him when they took over the running of the estate that the way forward lay in improving the quality of the wines, and yet at the same time remaining true to the terroirs that they had. Thus it was that they set about building a new winery, and since 1998 the wines have been made here in a state-of-the-art winemaking facility, where the process involves gravity flow from the crusher d'estéma through the fermenters and via the press to the aging tanks. Now today, Domaine Les Grands Bois vineyards are spread across 7 communes. They have vines in Sainte-Cecile-les-Vignes, but also in Lagarde Paréol, Suze-la-Rousse, Tulette, Travaillan, Cairenne and Rasteau. The sites are mostly on plateau and they tend to be at an altitude of around 130 metres above sea level. Mireille and Marc also restructured the vineyards, putting the vines onto trellises, making it much easier to mechanise processes such as pruning and harvesting. They also worked to gain organic certification, starting the process of conversion in 2008 and gaining organic certification in 2011. And they've increased the size of the domain. Evidently the holdings in Cairenne and Rasteau have been purchased since they've been running the estate. And these increases in vineyard holdings have required a further enlargement of the winery. So today, as well as making wines labelled as Cotes du Rhone, we're also making Cotes du Rhone Village from Sainte-Cecile, Cotes du Rhone Village from Suze-la-Rousse, and also wines under the Cairenne and Rasteau appellations. They describe the growing conditions here as the vines grow being swept by the Mistral, but under Provencal sun. So the fruit's machine harvested. The winery, it's destemmed. They ferment in temperature regulated stainless steel tanks, and those tanks are equipped with mechanical punch down equipment so that they can push the cap of skins back into the fermenting must, enabling quite a careful management of the extraction of colours and tannins that can prevent that being too harsh. The wine is then run off and pressed into concrete tanks for aging. I'm not given a detail as to how long the wine ages before release. And as for the blend, the wine is predominantly Grenache, about 70%, and the remaining 30% is Syrah. Producers suggest that this is best consumed at up to 3 to 4 years of age. So let's have a look at it and see what we think. First thing I'd say is actually, for a Cotes du Rhone, that is relatively deep and dark. There's quite a purple note to the colour. Certainly the rim is quite a vivid purple. It's not completely opaque, I can see through, but there does appear to be a density to the colour. Swelling it, the wine is labelled as having 14.5% alcohol and is very readily clinging to the sides of the glass there. I appear to have a piece of cork in it, not so great. But yes, it's readily forming tears, and those are running down the side of the glass there, suggesting the wine has weight of alcohol and probably a certain amount of tannic density as well. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are rich, warm and inviting. I'm not sure what the aromas can be, but it's almost juicy, it's bursting fruit. Probably a touch of over-ripeness, to be honest. This sort of smells of really ripe black cherries, really ripe dark plum. perhaps dams and hints. It's almost rich and porty. There are perhaps some slight hints of spice, but really it's a powerful, very ripe, dark, juicy fruit that's showing itself. So let's have a taste. On the palate, that's rich, full and smooth. Certainly the alcohol is giving a rounded nature to the wine. There's quite a reasonable freshness showing. There's a structure of fine, smooth tannins, but there's a little bit of grip, and that's interacting quite nicely with the freshness. Just to give a little bit of mouth-watering bitterness, that's actually quite nicely balancing those high ripeness dark fruit. There's almost a sort of a jammy, dark cherry, blackberry, elderberry sort of concentration of black fruit there that opens to slightly more of a sort of a rich red fruit. The liveliness makes me think of mulberries. There's raspberry notes and perhaps a little red plum on the finish. I suppose the wine's overt fruitiness is helped by the fact that there's no oak overlaying it, and you're able to see this ripe, juicy fruit in its full splendour. I wouldn't say the wine was hugely complex, but it has enough elements to balance this sort of big, rich, ripe, juicy fruit. There's that fresh acidity and those notes of bitter tannins combined to give a sort of mouth-watering nature to the finish and allow the more perfumed red fruit notes to show on the finish. And the other function of the acidity is it's giving the finish some quite good length. The finish is clean, and at this stage of its development, the wine is really only showing its primary fruit. I should imagine you'd start to get a little more meaty, rustic, spicy secondary characters given 2 or 3 years in bottle. If you like a wine with power and attractive ripe fruit, I think this is offering some really lovely drinking right now. I took a look at the Wine Searcher website, and the aggregated critics score that this wine has is 88 out of 100. I think that's a little unfair. It's not a hugely complex fine wine, but I'd suggest, given its power, yet its balance and its length, it probably deserves to get at least 89 points out of 100. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, do please make sure to press the like button. That would be very much appreciated. If you'd like to watch more of my tastings, do please sign up and subscribe to my channel. It would be fantastic to have your ongoing support, and that way also you can set yourself an alert and you can be notified every time I publish a new tasting. If you have any friends you think might like to watch the tasting, do please feel free to pass it on to them. Your endorsement would be very valued. And if you have any comments, do please pop those in the comments box below. I would love to hear what you think about the wines I'm looking at, the tastings I'm doing, or anything else that relates to that. I will of course leave a link in the notes below to the web page for this wine on the Wine Searcher website, so you can see if it's available near you and at what price, and hopefully you might want to search them out, because I'm really enjoying this. So thank you again for joining me, and I do hope you'll manage to make some time and come and join me to watch another tasting in the very near future. Till then, bye for now.